Hey, how'd you get so fucked up?
Hello everyone, and welcome to another Did You Know? Last time we went through some of the difficulties that Henry might face through his early Rattay experience. But he managed to repay his debt to Woyzeck, and simultaneously acquired thieving skills which will come in handy later on. But one of the most important things he managed to do was acquire a stable income through herbalism and alchemism. He still owes a debt of labour to the other millers, but he's in a position where he can begin searching for the bandits. But it seems Executioner might need his assistance first. You help him find the love of his life, but he starts getting frequently drunk for some reason. Incidentally, this is the only time that he comes to town.
They shot on me.
They've given his job to someone else.
If you don't make a stand, it'll be worse next time.
And you're going to help him get it back. I used to think that this was one of the best quests in the game. It was one of those rare quests that allows you to fail if you don't pay attention, and it doesn't hold you by the hand. When you're researching the crimes involved, you can make a mistake and come to the wrong conclusion. And what's great about the quest is that it allows you to proceed. You don't find out that you've made a mistake until right at the end. The quest specifically allows you to do things that you think are right, but are actually wrong. Another way that rewards a player for paying attention is when you scout the camp itself. There's 4 people in total and the camp is usually well guarded. But if you watch carefully enough, you'll find that 2 guards go down to the inn at around 7 PM. They come back at around midnight, so that gives you around 5 hours to operate. The executioner goes to bed at around 9 PM, and that leaves the single person patrolling the entire camp. 2 of the 3 things you need to do you can do before the executioner goes to bed. Once he does, you can safely access the locked chest within the camp. But this is why I used to say that it was one of the best quests in the game. One of the things you need to do is blunt a sword, and to do that you need access to a grinding wheel. The nearest one is a Rattay, and when you try to go into the city, the guards seem to automatically know that you have a stolen item. I've tested various scenarios, but the guards still find stolen items on you even if you don't have any. Even if you store the sword in your player chest, in other words don't have it on you, they'll still pull you up and still find a stolen item, even if you have none. It only happens the first time you go into Rattay, so it's definitely triggered by the quest. If you temporarily store the sword in your player chest and come back for it, they won't inspect you the second time. That didn't happen in previous versions, and it doesn't seem to trigger a sub-branch, so there seems to be no purpose to it. You can still do it without getting caught. You can access Rattay by the side door, and use the grinding wheel at the swordsmiths, or you can go to the blacksmith at Ledetchko. The easiest way is to hire a room at the nearest inn, store the sword, get caught, and then come back for the sword. It does mean that you get a reputation as a thief in the town, so buying things at the stores will be more expensive for a little while. But carry on and enjoy the results, and enjoy your newfound friendship with the executioner.
I'll be forever grateful to you, Hal. You saved my job, and you deserve a reward for it.
Thank you.
A good merchant needs to look the part, so before you leave town with your goods, go and purchase yourself a wardrobe. I use a house rule, where the equipment that I wear is limited by my defense skill, so for me at this point I can only wear clothing. There's a number of ways you can go, but I recommend going to the Ledetchko. The chumps on the river game will allow you to train your bow skill. There's also a small matter of the lay bow to the millers. You can do Woyzeck's missions during the evening as you train your bow during the day. For the 2 missions in Townburg, I recommend not making yourself known to the town. The primary reason is that it triggers Lady Stephanie's quest, but from a role-playing perspective, you don't want to be the new person in town just as things begin to go missing. What I personally tend to do is hang about outside the castle until the evening, sneak in past the gate guard, and get into the armory. Once in there, you get hold of the Waffen Frogs, and make a silent getaway by jumping off the castle drawbridge once again. The last Woyzeck mission is a little bit more complex. It involves stealing Lady Stephanie's jewels. From a role-playing perspective, this presents a bit of a quandary, because she was one of the nicest people to you. So the way I like to play it is that I have to steal it because the millers require it. But just stealing the jewels would be a bit of a dick move. So what I like to do is I like to purchase the most expensive dress, and a pair of fashionable shoes and leave them instead of the jewels. The dress and the shoes cost about 1,000 groschen together, so hopefully that helps offset the loss of the jewels. It's a little bit trickier to get into the lady's bedroom undetected. Silently break into the very hard locks, and make off with the jewels. The game naturally pushes you to Sassau, so I recommend going there once you understand the bow well enough. When you speak to the innkeeper at Sassau, they'll tell you about your friends and the Skalitz wounded.
You're from Skalitz, ain't you? You must know Fritz and Matthew then. Them fellows need to learn some manners. They've been making mischief and folk are getting fed up with them. Of course, it's your own Skalitz folk need the most help. There's some of them at the Monastery. I talked to Johanka a few times. She's working her fingers to the bone taking care of the injured ones there. I'm sure she'd welcome some good Samaritan who'd lighten her load.
Matthew! Fritz! You're alive!
Of course we're alive. You're not doing too well either, are you?
Well, I'm just getting by the best I can. Nothing to get excited about.
You said it. We're still chopped off to bits. Owe the monastery a bundle. And there's no work here.
Yet again, Fritz and Matthew have got themselves in trouble, and you have to bail them out. They briefly mention some trouble at the monastery, and if you probe into it, it will trigger a hidden quest to resolve it.
The monastery wants you to pay for treatment. That doesn't sound right.
Leave it be, Howell.
I won't. What happened?
We might have pummeled his face. But don't get involved, Henry. We'll settle it on our own.
Wait, who exactly did you pummel?
Well, he kept on bothering us and... in a nutshell, it was his fault and we're not going to talk about it anymore.
But couldn't there be a way to settle it? Maybe he'd let you off the...
There isn't.
But don't be a twat, Fritz. The two of you are up to your necks in shit, and you're gonna play tough instead of seeing sense.
Go to hell, Henry. You and Elias. You're one as bad as the other.
Johanka is the only person who will speak about it, but once you do, it will trigger a hidden option.
You wouldn't happen to know what Fritz and Matthew did here, would you?
Don't even talk to me about that. They weren't badly injured compared to most of the others here, and after lying in bed for a while, they got bored. So they started drinking. I'm trying to help people in dire need, and the two of them are drinking with that cretin Elias.
They always have been thoughtless, but at least they were punished for it. Who is this Elias, anyway?
One of the ordinal monks who helps out here. He was the one who brought the booze. All three of them got friendly pretty fast. You know what they say about birds of a feather.
What kind of person is this Elias?
A timid kind of fellow.
And why is he being so hard on Fritz and Matthew? They're drowning in debt because of him, and it seems all they had was a small fight.
I don't know. He was the one who wanted to befriend them in the first place. I don't believe it's because of any property damage they did. It's got more to do with wounded pride.
And do you know what got between them?
It turns out that it's all about pride.
1 minute they're the best friends in the world, and then a lot of yelling and furniture flying around. They threw Fritz and Matthew out straight afterwards.
And if you use the dialogue option to massage the monk's wounded pride, he'll let go of the issue without too much trouble.
Heathens.
So it was you they fought with?
Yes, it was me, and I hope I'll never have to see those wastrels again.
They deserve to be ousted, but the debt? How are they ever going to pay it?
I really don't care. Let them live in penury. Brutes.
Isn't that a little unchristian? You wouldn't want personal spite to ruin their lives, would you?
I'm not going to stand here and be lectured on what it is and isn't Christian. Who do you think you are?
I'm surprised you see it that way. They only talk about you with respect.
Really? Them?
Of course. They said you fight like a bull. And they hope you'll have a beer with them sometime again.
Well, definitely. Men will fight sometimes. I'm sure we'll settle this debt somehow.
That tends to succeed regardless of what your speech is.
Your best friend settled the matter.
You're serious?
Absolutely. All you have to do is go to him and promise you'll pay the debt somehow.
We won't forget this. On my honor. Thanks.
But rewinding back a little while, when you first entered the monastery, you witnessed to a very strong disagreement between Johanka and the monks. There's many things that you can do to help the Skalitz wounded. But one of the things I wanted to comment on is that you need reading and alchemy skill to complete the quest. In previous versions, Nicodemus would help you with potions that you couldn't brew yourself, and if I remember correctly, he would give information that you couldn't read out of the herbarium. I used to recommend that the best way to roleplay was to come down to Sassau and engage in this quest first. It served multiple purposes. One was to make it clear just how bad things have been at Skalitz.
Oh my god. Philip, and they're all...
Yes? Where do you think the wounded ended up?
Actually, I had no idea.
Just looking at the refugees in Rattay gives you a rosy picture of things. But this mission also provides an incentive for the player to learn alchemy and reading by demonstrating just how useful those skills are. There's also a couple of missions that Nicodemus has that are suited to a novice herbalist. So I also think that the developers intended this mission to be a teaching moment. The two most urgent cases, Philip and the guy with the broken leg, also reward you for past good deeds with Father Simon and the Executioner. There's a number of other quests, like the missing horse at Woyzeck, that are best suited for someone wandering looking for work. But the reason I don't recommend that anymore is because of the reading and alchemy requirements at Sassau. By the time you go and learn reading at Woyzeck, at least one of the two urgent cases at Sassau would have died, but also because of the missions at Taumberg. The double importance for the missions makes more sense if they're done later, not to mention that looking after the Skalitz wounded and simultaneously investigating the monastery construction makes for a very crowded monastery. It fits the narrative better if you save the Skalitz people first, meaning that the monastery knows you and probably has some trust for you, complements the trust that Sir Divish gives you.
Hopefully they'll talk to me.
They will. You ride in my name, so don't forget to remind them of it.
The Sassau Mila missions are fairly straightforward, but I take a similar approach with the spurs as I did with the Lady Stephanie's jewels. The decent thing to do is again to buy a pair of spurs and leave them instead of the ones you steal. That way the cobbler doesn't get in trouble, and you fulfill your duties to the millers. If you spoke to the innkeeper Ledetchko, he would have told you about a plot that the millers were hatching, and when you speak to them, it turns out that they have a captive cumin. Your task is to find a translator, which you do, but there's a hidden option there. If you listen to the conversation carefully,
Rattay Regondos?
You might overhear the word Rattay. Then if you speak to the translator afterwards, you'll be able to quiz him about the discussion you had with the cumin.
Whatever he said took a lot longer than your translation. Did you really tell me everything?
Well, you know, they have a different manner of speaking in Hungary. Some things can't be translated so easily. There are a few hard nuts for us translators to crack there.
So you didn't translate everything?
Not verbatim. But look, I don't know why you're making a fuss about it. It's simple. He's gonna take you there and the money's yours.
And if you pass the speech check, he'll confess that he's been misleading you.
It's just I'm sure I heard him say something about Rattay.
Well, you must have misheard. He didn't mention that place. He speaks a strange dialect. That's the trouble.
A fucking dialect? I've had enough of this. I'm taking the cumin to Rattay, and we'll see what he has to say when he's on the rack. They'll have a translator who knows what he's doing. And if I find out you've betrayed me, you'll be very sorry.
Fine, fine. Just keep calm. I didn't tell you everything. You're right.
So what did he say? I'm listening.
He described the place where he says the money is hidden, in exchange for me promising that I'd talk to you into letting him guide you there.
If you'd simply taken the cumin, you would have run into an ambush.
Where does he want to take me?
I have no idea, but it's probably not anywhere you want to be.
Where's the money then?
Well, across the river from Rattay, there's a hill. And when you're standing on that hill, looking at the town, there's a road next to you. On that road, there's a crossroads by a burnt tree. From there, a small path leads to the water. Then, by the water, on the right, he says, there's a hollowed out stump. And that's where you'll find it.
Well, now, it looks like we're through here. Get lost.
I'm already on my way, and everything is fine now, is it not, brother?
You better hope it's there, or I'm gonna come looking for you.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not so foolish as to lie to you twice, am I?
I should hope not.
Good luck.
Money, here.
But after the conversation with the translator, he'll take you to the treasure.
Money, here.
Go. A good deed shouldn't go unrewarded. And I suppose you might call this a good deed? You look bored.
Beyond tears.
How can you be bored here in Sassau, in such a holy place, filled with knowledge?
Don't even talk to me about it. They won't let you touch the books, they don't want to talk to you, and when I wanted to look at the remains of St. Procopius at least, they ran me off. Me! Like some kind of thief. What good is the whole blasted monastery if I can't even do that?
Well, they say there's not much left of poor Procopius.
What's that got to do with anything?
I'm not blaming you. It's just that only monks have access to the reliquary in the crypt. Folk were even taking relics away from St. Procopius' cave for protection before. Now no one's allowed in there.
I know, but I'd never dream of doing that. I just wanted to touch them for luck.
When you speak to Urban, who's guarding the custodian's front door, you can offer to give him access to some saintly remains.
You're not planning some mischief, are you?
No, not at all. I was going to bring you something from the cave under the monastery where he spent his time. You can get in there. You could touch it for luck and then I'd return it.
Well now. You do that for me?
Of course.
Then I'd be very grateful to you.
There's two options. One is to get the actual remains from the cave, which is well guarded, but there is a not so obvious way to get in.
Just as I thought. There aren't any remains here.
Before you take the bowl, make sure you save because there's a well-known bug where you might not be able to put it back. But once you have it, take it to Urban and that will finish the quest.
Looks ordinary. A bit too ordinary. I've got a bowl for you from the cave of St. Procopius.
A bowl? I was expecting something a little different.
Behold!
Ah! Is it really from St. Procopius?
Yes. From his cave. A truly astonishing place. This surely has miraculous powers.
You're right. My God, you're right. Such holiness. I'm in your debt, Henry. How can I repay you?
Thanks, but I don't want anything. I was glad to help.
Truly? Well, thank you.
My pleasure.
And Henry,
Yes?
I just wanted to touch it for luck. If you took something you shouldn't have, I expect you'll put it back.
If you forget to do that, then Urban will eventually attack you. But there's another alternative. Instead of getting a proper relic, you can go and speak to a charlatan in Sassau Square.
I'm looking for a piece of the remains of St. Procopius.
Are you now? And who would that be for?
For a friend. He'd like to have something holy to treasure.
Quite a reasonable fellow.
And get something fake from him.
I have a piece of his finger bone.
And it's from St. Procopius.
Well, he was definitely a good fellow. Well, at least not a bad one. And I believe his name even was Procopius.
All right, what do you want for it?
A precious piece, that one.
I have a bone for you from the remains of St. Procopius.
Truly? Then show it to me.
Behold.
Ah. Is it really from St. Procopius?
Pass a speech check, and Urban will believe you.
Of course.
So not only is the quest hidden, but it also has a lot of hidden options.
It's not like I just dig it up somewhere, right?
I just don't know. Put it away. I don't know if this was a good idea.
There's a very morally grey activity in Sassau. A farmhand initially asks you to steal a charm as revenge for not having been paid. But if you continue helping him, you'll end up breaking relationships and framing people for arson. So that's one of the quests that you really shouldn't do if you're a good Henry.
Steal the tinderbox he carries. It's his pride and joy, and he's always boasting about how fine it is. Everyone knows it's his. Once you've got it, I'll set the whole bloody farm on fire and drop his tinderbox there so everyone will blame him.
If you found this useful, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to be notified when new videos are published.